What if you could lead more effectively and go home on time? Welcome to the Lightbulb. I'm Zoe Thompson, leadership and performance coach, and each week I bring you 3 practical insights from my work helping impact-driven leaders transform from reactive to intentional leadership so they can finish work on time and take guilt-free time off, creating success that feels as good as it looks. Let's jump in. Episode 18, and I have a lot to talk through today. Not that I don't normally have lots to talk through, but I do have lots to talk through today. So I am going to jump straight into it because it has been a really good week with both clients and delivering workshops. It's been a really nice mix this week and managed to get a little bit done on the business as well, which has been good. So it's been a good balance. And it does mean I have 3 really good light bulbs for you this week. So the first one actually came up in a coaching session with a one-to-one client. And we were talking about how they manage questions, how they respond to questions from their team. Now, you've heard me talk in previous episodes around how we respond in that leadership role when people come to us with their questions, with their problems. How we respond to it trains them in how to continue to ask questions in the future. So if we always give them the answer, they're always going to come to us with questions. If we coach them through the answer, they're going to learn how to make decisions, going to learn how to problem solve. It's going to empower them to hold on to that ownership of the problems and the challenges that they have. And it's going to train them, if you like, to learn how to ask different questions to get better answers without necessarily having to come to you. So in the coaching session, we were talking about a member of the team who has lots of questions. They come to this leader on a regular basis, and often it's not questions that actually involve them in the role that they are in. And we were talking through how to appropriately challenge those questions, but also how to do that in a way that doesn't disempower the individual, that they still recognize that there is a place for questions, but also recognizing that actually there is a time, there is a place, and there's also what is appropriate for that role, and remembering the role that they are in, just keeping that contained a little bit, staying in their own lane, if you like. So we talked through, and I asked lots of questions to explore what this individual's motivations were, what did this individual need, what does this individual value. Now, we don't know the motivations for this individual. We can only explore this. We can only look at this from different perspectives. But what we wanted to do was come up with some different ways to respond appropriately to this individual when they come with questions. One of the things that we talked about is to ask the individual, okay, what hat are you wearing when you ask this question? Is this you personally asking the question? Is it the role that you are in? Is it the project that you are working on? What hat are you wearing? Okay, what is the purpose of the question that you're asking? What answer are you looking for, and how will you be applying this answer once you've got it? And actually, it can also really help people who are perhaps carrying multiple roles. And I've had this conversation with clients in the past that have lots of portfolios within the role that they're in, of being able to almost imagine that they're putting a different hat on before they answer that question. So it can be great for you as a leader to ask the individual, what hat are you wearing when you ask this question, so that you know what perspective they're coming in from. It also helps them to consider what capacity are they asking this question in. But also you can flip this and ask the same question when somebody is asking you. So if you have different portfolios within the role that you're in, then you can ask them, okay, what hat do you want me to put on to answer this question? A great example of this is a client that I've worked with who is in a people lead role. So lots of different portfolios. They've got an HR lead, they've got the welfare lead, they've got a health and safety lead, they've got a mental health first aider role. So this person has lots of different roles within their role. So one of the ways that they would manage the questions that came to them was to ask them, okay, what hat do you want me to put on? Because the answer is going to be very different as an HR representative versus a mental health first aider. Even though the question might be the same, the answer may be slightly different depending on the role that you're in. So think about, what hat are they wearing? What hat are you wearing? And that question will help to define the role and the answer that you give before you give it. And just remember, how you respond to the questions from your team is how they will ask questions in the future. So if you want less questions, then your questions need to help coach them through that decision or exploring different perspectives to help them to find the answer. So they don't need to come to you for the answer in the future. They know what questions to ask to get the answer for themselves. My second light bulb, delegation versus allocation. So it links in really with the challenge from the first light bulb. We train our teams. We train our teams how to deal with things. And if we are training them to depend on us because of the answers that we give or the way that we hold on to work, or we ask them to come to us, then we are training them to depend on us. So the second light bulb links into that. And actually, delegation is a really big topic. So it's going to be the workshop for March because it's a challenge that's coming up in lots of client sessions, in discussions with the community. So that's going to be the workshop for March because it's a huge area. And actually, leaders who delegate really well have empowered, confident teams that have that autonomy, that have that self-efficacy. So this is something as leaders we really want to be able to master as a skill. So we talked in the client session around the distinction between delegation versus allocation. And actually, we Googled the dictionary definitions to help enable that discussion because I think it is one of those words that can be quite subjective in terms of how we interpret that. We were talking through team dependency. We were talking about allocation. So tasks without the decision making. Quite often, allocation is a task that they already know how to do, or possibly the subject matter expert in. You're allocating a task that probably is within their role description, within their roles and responsibilities. Whereas delegation, it's the empowerment for them to take on the task, but you retain the accountability, but you are giving them responsibility and the authority to go ahead and complete that task in a way that works for them. So you're very clear of the outcome. You are delegating that empowerment and that authority for them to go ahead and complete the task. You're delegating the responsibility. You remain accountable. Now, often, and this is what we talked about in the discussion, leaders think they're delegating, but actually they're allocating. So we need to question as a leader where this is coming from. What is the difference? Are we holding on to the tasks that we feel we have to keep the ownership for? What is the challenge around you not delegating more? Now, often appreciate there are logistical issues. You might have teams that is already under pressure. You might not have a team that you feel are ready for bigger tasks or bigger responsibilities of task or ready to push outside of their comfort zone. But I want you to challenge where that is an assumption and whether that is fact or feeling, because often I'm hearing leaders saying that they don't have a team that's ready for this, whereas actually the team do feel that they're ready. They are looking to be pushed outside of their comfort zone. They do want to be stretched that little bit more. They do want the challenge. So make sure that is not an assumption, that is fact. Use your one-to-ones to ask those questions. Use your one-to-ones to explore what they feel the next step is or what they feel like a stretch is. What opportunities are they looking for? And then you can use delegation as a way to empower and increase the knowledge and the skills and the confidence of your team. Delegation is not about palming off stuff on your list, which is what a lot of people say. They feel guilty because they're getting rid of something on their list to an already busy team. If you've got a team that are looking for that extra challenge, then this is your opportunity to give them that support, to give them that guidance and help them to evolve and grow in their role. So if you're allocating tasks, then you're not actually delegating anything. You're not giving them that opportunity to grow and evolve in the role they're in. And potentially you are keeping yourself as the bottleneck because you're not delegating some of the things that perhaps they are ready to take on. Food for thought right there, and why that is one of the light bulbs this week. And existing clients and community will be able to learn about this more in the workshop in March. And if you want to find out more about that, then pop me a message and ask away. Okay, my third and final light bulb for this episode. The power of the pause. Silence is so important. The listening is so important. And actually, it makes us better leaders. Now, we talked about this in an organizational change workshop that I did this week. We were talking about empathetic listening. It's one that we've covered on more recent workshops. Check out the resource library for those of you who have access to that, because that workshop is in there. Now, we talked about the power of the pause, and actually there is science behind how our brain works, in that we need to give people space to work out the answers. And if we interrupt or interject too early, then we risk disrupting that pattern of thought that allows people to get to where they need to get to. Now, this is a universal leadership skill, and we need to check in with ourselves that this is not us with a rescue mentality. So if you think about the dreaded drama triangle, we want to coach, we do not want to rescue. Now, it's silence for us, but it does not equal silence for them. When we sit and hold that silence, when we hold that pause, that gives the individual space to think things through, to explore the answers and the different perspectives that are bubbling around in their mind, and to work it through and make sense of it all. If we disrupt that, we are stopping the thinking process, the creative process, the feeling process that is incredibly important for individuals to make decisions, to explore perspectives, and to come up with a solution that works for them. Now, this applies in coaching. It applies when we're giving feedback. It applies when we're having difficult conversations. It applies in your one-to-ones when you're talking about their development, or you're talking about opportunities for improvement. When you jump in with another question, or when you jump in with an idea of your own, or a solution suggestion, or you jump in to share your own experiences, you are not creating the pause that they need. And if you are doing this because the silence makes you uncomfortable, you are making them uncomfortable in the process. You risk disempowering that individual, because the pause has the power. If you take away the pause, then you take away the power. It takes practice. And it's certainly something that I had to work so hard on when I first started coaching, because you have questions pop into your mind. You have different frameworks or different solutions that pop into your mind, but they're yours. They're your questions. They're your solutions. They're your answers. There is power in the pause. You holding silence does not mean that you don't know. You holding silence means that you trust that they have the answer. You trust that the person sitting in front of you is a resourceful and knowledgeable person, and you are giving them space to work that out for themselves. Silence for you is not silence for them. There is power in the pause. So that's the 3 light bulbs for this episode 18. I think these are really interesting ones this week. I would love to know how they land for you, what thought this sparks for you, and what you might do as a result of that. It's always good to hear what people are picking up from each episode. So I would love to hear from you if you've enjoyed the episode, if there's something that has really resonated with you and perhaps has shifted your way of thinking. I would love to know about it. Have a great week ahead, and I will be back soon with the next episode. And those are your 3 takeaways for this week. Before you go, ask yourself, what's my light bulb moment from this? And now that I know what I know, what will I do differently? Choose one action, however small, and commit to it. That's how overwhelmed and reactive becomes aligned and intentional. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week on the next episode of The Lightbulb.